Welcome to On the Sofa with Monja and Anna. Although I'm not on the sofa tonight, I'm with my lovely men friends. I'm Anna, and this week we're exploring the world of tailoring, an area that I really love. And we're looking at how our jackets and suits are made, the different tailoring options, and the fashion and history behind them. Monja is a pro on the sewing machine, as well as our in-house tailoring expert. She works in our Edinburgh shop, and she's virtually with me today to share her knowledge.
Hi, I'm Monja and I studied all things fashion here in Scotland, including different tailoring, patterning, and sewing techniques. So, we'll start off tonight with a little bit of the history of tailoring and exactly what it is as well. So, the most important element of a final garment is how well it fits. This is where tailoring comes in. Tailoring is the art of designing, fitting, fabricating, and finishing garments. The word tailor actually comes from a French word taire, meaning to cut. During the Renaissance, the traditional loose robes worn by both men and women began to be shortened, gathered, tightened, and sewn together in shapes that started to resemble the human figure. Prior to this, all clothing was just made in the home. Once people began to wear clothing in certain styles, for different body types or in unique patterns, the demand for skilled tailors developed. The mere fact that tailors existed at all reveals that the attitudes about clothing were beginning to change. Clothes were now more than necessities. They were a way for people to express themselves, project their status, and show off what they consider to be their best features. Well, hello to Lee and Kate who have joined us. It's nice to have you here with us this evening. So, by the 1100s, a tailor was considered a legitimate occupation. King Henry I gave royal privileges to tailors of Oxford in 1100. The London Guild of Tailors and Linen Armourers were granted royal arms in 1299 as well. Originally, and still today actually, the trade of tailoring was taught by apprenticeship. This is where a master tailor instructed an aspiring tailor through practical experience on the job. Apprentices were trained in moulding woolen cloth to the shape of an individual's body through patterning, cutting, and sewing. Once this process was mastered, the apprentice tailors could show their style and skills by creating different styles and silhouettes that emphasized the wearer's best qualities. A master tailor would traditionally own each tailoring shop, with apprentices, pattern cutters, and junior tailors all working below him in creating quality garments that fit perfectly each time. Before sewing machines became popular, more than one tailor would often work on a garment, sewing by sitting opposite each other while sitting cross-legged on the floor. And in French, the cross-legged way of sitting is actually still called assis en terre, or sitting in tailor's pose. Today, the word tailor is generally associated with someone who creates custom men's clothing. Bespoke tailors are among the most respected people in the garment industry, as it's an incredibly hard skill to master. Bespoke, which means spoken for and not available for the public to buy, um, are garments that are made to measure for one specific client. Although tailoring is now more closely associated with menswear rather than women's wear, top designers such as Alexander McQueen actually began their careers. McQueen began his career as a tailor's apprentice on Savile Row in London.
So on to the process of tailoring a jacket. Now this should be a really fun experience, and it's something that we love doing in the shop or on the phone or with customers because there's so many different options, and it really is an opportunity to express your personal style. So you would start off first of all by choosing your cloth. So of course we have over 500 tartans, so there's lots of different choices here for you to to look at. And you might want to go for a clan tartan, you might be looking for a specific colour to match in with the theme for your wedding day, whatever suits. So we can show you all the different cloths, and if you can't come to the shop, then we also do some virtual appointments where you can do that. So not only do you choose your cloth, you can also choose things such as your buttons and match them up, pick up a lovely nice colour stripe in your tartan, and we also grab all my pieces. Have lots of different fancy linings, and you can have lots of fun choosing different colours, subtle or more wild, to pick out the different colours in your tartan. And you can do your sleeves a different colour to the body, you can do whatever you fancy. So there's lots and lots of options available for you.
Hello to Jean in France and also Joanne. So thank you for joining us for our tailor jacket evening. So next up in the process of creating your tailored jacket is the measuring process. So this is really important in making sure that your jacket fits correctly to your body. So there are a few key things that you need to remember. So simple things like standing up straight just gives a more accurate measurement. Things like your tape measure should be straight across your body, and using a tailor's tape measure like Anna's got there is really the best thing rather than a ruler or anything like that. So another thing to look at, that we tend to look at in the shop in particular, is any figurations on the body. So because we're all built slightly differently, that means that maybe you've got a dropped shoulder or a slightly curved back or a prominent seat, and all these things will alter how your jacket sits on the body. So we do offer virtual appointments at the moment, which will help if you want a tailored jacket. We can talk you through measuring and help you through that whole process. And once the world returns to normal, you can also visit us in the shop or at one of our pop-up events, and we can do all the work for you.
So first decision to make, do you want single or double-breasted jacket? And there's some history behind this. So in the 1920s, that kicked off the competition between the two styles. Rebels made a statement by wearing simpler single-breasted suits, and more conservative men stuck with double-breasted. During World War II, double-breasted suits lost their popularity. They fell out of favour, and because of cloth rationing, they obviously take more cloth to produce, so this made them less popular. So single-breasted suits then carried on with their popularity right through to the 1980s, when double-breasted made a bit of a comeback, mainly due to them going into the spotlight with thinking of, if you think of James Bond and the Wolf of Wall Street, great big tall men wearing big, broad, loose jackets and with big shoulders, giving you a really powerful silhouette. And it had some famous fans such as His Majesty Prince Charles and other personalities like David Bowie, which made that style really popular. But in day-to-day life, really double-breasted suits didn't catch on beyond city bankers. But that's all changed. That's really changed now, and tailors have gone back to the drawing board. They've given the double-breasted suit a bit of an overhaul. They've cut it shorter. You can have it in a slim fit. You can have nice wide lapels, which broaden your chest and draw the eye upwards so that you look taller. Some would say a double-breasted jacket's always been more formal than single-breasted, as you can't really wear it unbuttoned. However, thanks to some of our friends over on the other side of the world, it has been proven they can actually wear your double-breasted jacket open, and this style has a certain nonchalant look all of its own. So style or comfort? Well, if you're talking comfort, a double-breasted jacket does keep its shape really well, thanks to the layout of the buttons. It hides the end of your tie, keeps your shirt in nice and tight, and makes your waistband nice and structured. So you'll really look smart however your day goes, however tough your day or evening. And the anchor button on the inside as well gives you a better drape and fit, and a nice sharp finish to your outfit. On the other hand, single-breasted jacket is nice and easy to wear, and it's easy to open and close with one hand, and it gives, if you wear it with two buttons, has a nice sporty, relaxed look, gives you a little bit more freedom. The double-breasted jacket has followed similar trends to the single-breasted in terms of the height of the buttons and the height of the closure. So beginning of the 20th century, you saw the buttons coming right down to level with the pockets. But today, thankfully, have come back up to a more normal height. And we do offer you a choice of buttoning configuration, and this is where sometimes it can seem a little bit confusing, but we've got a little picture here to make it nice and simple. 4x2 is by far the most popular, and that's what we've got here, and the one to go for if it's your first double-breasted jacket. So pictured from left to right on your screen is the 4x2 style, where you have 4 buttons but only 2 of them are fastened. The 6x2, where it has 6 buttons but still only 2 of them are fastened. The 4x4, which has 4 buttons and all 4 of the buttons are fastened. And then there's a 4x6, where your jacket has 6 buttons and 4 of them can be fastened. So lots of options for you there.
Hello to Mike in Duns, who's also joining us this evening. So now that you've chosen if you're having single or double-breasted, we can choose the jacket length. So this is one part of the men's suiting that actually does also change with time. Like most aspects of menswear, there is a moderate length that remains timeless no matter which way the trend moves. So when you choose your jacket length, take into consideration how long you think you'll be wearing it for, if it's for a one-off occasion or if you want to pull it out for many years to come. So if you want to look like a guy out for GQ magazine, or if you want to add an extra inch or 2, that will get you another 10 years wear of your jacket. So the jacket length is largely due to personal taste though, so there really aren't any right or wrong answers, but we do have a couple of rules that you can follow if you're not really sure how you'd like it to fit. So the first one is measuring to the end of the thumb. So the suit jacket should be able to be felt within the bent fingers of the wearer while the arms hang down to the side, just like Anna's doing there. This means the bottom of the jacket falls to the end of the thumb. However, the trend is currently for a shorter jacket, so you might not want to follow this age-old theory. Also, if you have long arms, and this rule doesn't really work, nor if you have really short arms. So another rule that you could follow is, does the back of the jacket cover the rear? So a good way to look at this is if you look in the mirror and stand side on and find where your bottom meets your thighs to find where the edge of the jacket should fall, just like Anna's doing there. Remember, if you shorten your jacket, you will skew the proportion between your legs and the body. So that brings us to our third rule, which is the divide by 2. So many tailors stick religiously to this rule where you measure from the back of the suit collar down to the floor, just like Anna's showing you there. And then you divide that length by 2, giving you the ideal jacket length. However, as we said before, this doesn't really take into account your natural variations, such as your arm, torso, and leg length, so you might want to adjust that slightly. Other things to consider when choosing your jacket length is how you would like it to be worn. So generally speaking, the more formal the occasion, the longer the jacket. And if you want to take this to the extreme, we could make you a tartan tailcoat as well for a wedding. If you are wearing your jacket more casually, then shorter lengths tend to be a bit more comfortable and easier to wear than longer lengths. Another thing you can consider when choosing your length is if you want to correct any bits you're not so fond of. So if you maybe want to look taller, then you could shorten your jacket and show a bit more leg. This also works really well if you want to play down a big torso or chest. So we would recommend that when we're back up and open again in the shop, if you come in and visit us, we like to pop a jacket on you and pin it up or down, and that'll give you a better idea of what suits your body shape and how you feel comfortable wearing it. So that you end up with a jacket that shows a bit of your personal taste and style as well.
So one of the next things you would do is to choose your buttons. And as I mentioned before, there's lots of different choices. I've now got my book stuck. Lots of different choices of button styles. You can have different colours. You can have covered buttons. You can have them covered like in the black satin or cover them in the tartan. You can have horn buttons. There's loads of different choices. We've got pictures online. We have all the samples in the shop as well. So there's lots for you to choose from, and you can have some good fun with a simple button. So men's buttons are on the right side, women's on the left. And like many old customs, no one's really sure how this came to be. But according to one of the most popular theories, it might have to do with how middle and upper class European women used to dress. So during historical periods like the Renaissance and the Victorian era, women's clothing was much more complicated and elaborate than men's. So while rich men often dressed themselves, their female family members most likely had servants to help them put on their clothes, both out of luxury and necessity. And to make it easier for the servants to button up their employers' dresses, the tailors might have started sewing buttons onto the opposite side. Eventually, as clothing became more and more mass-produced, women's clothes just kept being made with the buttons on the left, and this design has become standard. So the other thing you can do also, which is a really nice touch, is to choose your buttonhole colours. And you can stitch, so you can reverse stitch. Apologies, I haven't got a sample for you. You can reverse stitch, it's difficult to see, but you could perhaps on the jacket like this, you could pick out the orange stripe in the tartan and stitch your buttonhole in the orange, which is a really nice touch, and you can do that on all the different buttons or just one, just as you prefer.
So another thing to consider is your pockets. So there are three that we have. So the first one is a flap pocket, which I think Anna's got on her jacket, or yep, on the double-breasted as well. So like that suggests, it's got a flap just covering the pocket. Another type is the jetted pocket, which you can see on the screen. It's a little bit more subtle because it's not got the flap there. And another one is the Welt, which is similar to the jetted pocket in that it's just a straight line without a flap. You can maybe see that on the waistcoat there that Anna's showing you. So again, that's just down to personal taste, how you would like your jacket to look. And we often get asked if our pockets are real, and yes, they all are, but they will be stitched shut when you receive your jacket, and this is just to help keep the shape of it while you're trying it on, having fittings and things like that. So you can always just unpick that, and then you'll have your full working pocket.
And now onto the vents, which is something that people often forget about or don't necessarily think about when they're going to get their jacket. But you have a couple of different choices of how many vents. So they are actually one of the most important parts of the jacket, and they can really make sure that it hangs properly, it looks stylish, feels comfortable. So what is a vent? I shall bring forward this gentleman here. So this is a half made up jacket, as you can see. This is your vent here. So a vent rises from the hem up the way, a vertical slit. And it's really important to the overall structure of the jacket. So most of the time when we go shopping, we always pay attention to the front and we don't necessarily look at the back. But actually, lots of people are going to see you from the back, so you want it to look really good from the back as well. So there's the three types you can choose from. So this is a single vent on this jacket here, which is placed in the middle of the back of the suit. And then we have a double vent, which you see on this jacket here. And this, so your vents are on the side of your suit. And then on this third one, you have no vent at all. So ventless jackets are considered typical of Italian tailoring, whereas your double vented jacket is considered a very British style. So the deciding factor, which vent should you go for? Well, again, it's personal taste. You can go for whichever you like. But the deciding factor is really your shape. So if you have a bit of a bulk here behind, a bit of booty there, then you don't want to really, well, maybe you do want to draw attention to it. If you do, then wear a two vented jacket. But if you want to keep that nice slim physique, then go for a single vented jacket, because it covers your behind and it won't do what you tend to get with the two vents, is that if you've got a big bottom, it splits and it just looks a bit untidy and not so good. So the single vent is actually the most popular of all the jacket styles, and it's used a lot on the high street with ready-to-wear jackets as well, made often called an American suit, made really popular by the Brooks brothers. But if you've been keeping in shape during the corona lockdown and you want to make sure that you're showing off your lovely physique, then using the two vent style gives you a really good shape. It's quite slimming, and it's also a good option if you're a bit bulkier around the chest and the front of the body. And for taller men as well, it'll give you if you've got a long body, then it breaks up the pattern and gives you a bit more shape. It's also great, the two vents, if you like me, just popping your hands in your pockets, because it doesn't spoil the shape of your jacket. So I think that's my kind of jacket. Suits with no vents suit shorter gentlemen and those lucky enough to be nice and slim. And although these are actually less popular, they're a less popular option. Actually, if you tailor them really well, they can look really good and they're a really flattering cut.
So now that you've decided your jacket style, you can look at which lapel is best for you. So we'll be focusing on two different types, the peak and the notch lapel. So all in all, lapel is just a fancy word for the two flaps that sit below the collar on either side of a suit jacket. You might not have noticed the different types of lapel before, but these two pieces of fabric can make the difference in totally changing how your suit looks. Therefore, it's quite important that you make the correct choice. So the first one is the notched lapel. The notched lapel is sewn onto the collar of the jacket at an angle, which results in a triangle forming between the two pieces of fabric. This results in the notched lapel being referred to as a fish mouth. The notched lapel is by far the most common lapel found on suits, due to its highly versatile nature. The versatility allows for the notched lapel to be worn in both casual and professional looks, and it's always a bit more of a safe choice, and it looks great on all of our suits. So the peaked lapel stays true to its name, and it forms a peak with the lapel pointing upwards. Unlike the notched lapel, the peaked lapel is all business and no party. The peaked lapel looks great on all of our suits and is perfect for more formal occasions. This peak gives the suit a sharp and classy look, which actually helps to make you look taller and slimmer. The peaked lapel is a great way to stand out at any formal event, and you could always choose, like the double-breasted jacket there, to have your lapels in satin for an even more formal look.
And now you've chosen your lapel, another detail you might be wondering about is the buttonhole. So why do you have a buttonhole yet there is no button on the other side? And there's two different stories to explain this feature. The first one is that in years gone by, if you bought a hat, it came with an elastic string with a button on the end, which you attached to your buttonhole, which prevented your hat from flying away in the wild Scottish wind. But the second, more credible sounding explanation was that when Prince Albert married Queen Victoria, she presented him with a small bouquet on their wedding day, and he, like the true gentleman that he was, cut a hole in his lapel to hold the flowers. So today, the most common use for a buttonhole in Scotland is to hold a sprig of heather or a thistle on your wedding day. And a current trend is to stitch the buttonhole, as I mentioned before, in a contrasting colour, which works really well with tartan. So you can pick out one of the bold colours and really just add a little bit more individuality to your suit. And now we move on to our sleeves and the buttons on your sleeves. And what you have to remember about buttons on the sleeves is that men have been wearing jackets for nearly 200 years, and they're an essential part of the wardrobe. So they had to be functional functionable, that's not a word, functional in days gone by. And if a gentleman was working in the garden wearing his blazer, he needed to be able to unbutton his sleeves and roll them up. In those days, you did not take your jacket off because that wasn't good. Today, most of your off-the-rack jackets that you'll find on the high street are made without working buttons. And the reason for this is because they're trying to fit lots of different body types. And if the holes are actually made, it's really difficult to adjust the sleeve length. So sewing the buttons on the outside and making them non-functional means that you can actually take a sleeve up quite a long way if necessary. But there's also another reason, and what determines whether you can or can't have working buttons on your cuff. It's also whether your sleeve has sleeve plackets in the cuffs, which I think we can see on, I lost his arm, on this here. So your sleeve placket runs down here. It's also called a casino if you want to get very professional. And this is the opening where the fabric overlaps when you roll up your sleeves. So my jacket as well actually has a working cuff on it as well, so you can see there how that's stitched, how that's separate. So obviously if there's no placket, you can't undo the buttons. So every jacket that we make does have a placket, and we can make your buttons working or non-working as you like. But remember, if you're going to roll your sleeves up, then to choose a really nice sleeve lining, so that then you can show them off when you do roll your sleeves up, or it's just nice to have. I just like having that colour on the inside. So, how many buttons do you have on your sleeve? Again, personal taste, but 3 is generally for a more casual look, 4 for a more formal or traditional jacket, and if you want, you can leave the 4th button undone and just to show off that you are wearing a made-to-measure jacket and the buttons actually work.
So sticking with buttons, there are a few rules for buttoning up your suit. It just shows a certain attention to detail and care in dressing if you do it properly. So a button suit will always look better because it creates a cleaner, slimmer silhouette. An unbuttoned jacket gives a more casual and carefree look, so it just depends what you're going for. You should always unbutton your jacket when you sit down though, partly for your own comfort, but also to prevent wrinkles and to stop the buttons from popping open. Your grandfather might have told you the traditional buttoning rules for a 3-button jacket. So you can see on the screen there, the 3-button rule is sometimes, always, and never. So that basically means that the top button you would sometimes fasten, the second button you would always fasten, and the bottom one you would never fasten. For a 2-button jacket, it's always, never. So again, you would always fasten the top and never the bottom. And for a 1-button jacket, it's just always. Most modern suits with 2 buttons are made with the expectation that you won't button the bottom. This means that if you do fasten it though, it'll give a bit more, it'll fit a lot tighter around the hips, and it'll make it flare out a bit around your torso, which will give your silhouette a look that's slightly out of proportion. So if you do want to wear your jacket with both buttons fastened, if you just let us know, and we can always accommodate this in your hip measurement just to make sure that you don't go out of proportion.
So I can see there from you what contrast is used on the jacket. I think you came on the left, but I'll just tell you the longest part. So this is the McLean Hunting Ancient Tartan. Sorry, I think my sound might be going a bit funny. Hopefully you can hear. This is the McLean Hunting Ancient Tartan. This one is the Musselburgh. So if you're a local to Edinburgh, you'll know there's the Musselburgh just outside Edinburgh. So that's the tartan. And then the sample jacket on the end is in the Black Watch Modern. So I hope that helps. How do we make your jacket? So the garment pattern is made from a block, and we use either a slim or a classic cut for your jacket. And we take the measurements and all the design features that you've chosen. And your block is the master pattern. It's usually made of thin cardboard, which we use by tracing around or marking through with a pinwheel to make the pattern onto thin paper. And the pattern is the finished design, and basically a paper template, from which the parts of the garment are placed onto fabric before being cut out and assembled.
So once you've got your pattern, then your fabrics will be ready to cut and get sewn together. So tartan jackets will use a bit more fabric, and this is just to ensure that the set or the pattern of the tartan matches, so that when you fasten your jacket, all the lines are going straight across and the tartan doesn't look broken up. So the jacket is essentially created twice, once in the main fabric and then again in the lining. And then at this stage, you can add on the fusing, the pockets, and any shoulder pads. So as you can see on the screen there, the unfinished jacket, this is the top layer, and it's just got all these added bits that stay inside the jacket. So then your jacket is sewn together with the main fabric and the lining, and it's sewn inside out. And to turn it the right way, the tailor will leave a 10 centimetre hole in the right sleeve, and the whole jacket is turned through this. So it sounds very small, but it's usually quite easy to do. Although I like to make things difficult for myself, and I have actually made a very large quilted jacket before, and it took 4 of us to pull that through, pushing and pulling, so that took quite a while. So when your jacket is nicely the right way around, hopefully without any difficulty, you can finish it off. So this includes any buttonholes, hand sewing, sewing on your buttons, and any top stitching as well. And there you have your finished jacket.
So your jacket's all finished, and we'll either send it out to you at home and you can try it on at your leisure, or you can come into the shop and we'll give you a final fitting and just double check everything is perfect for you. And if there's ever any little alterations that need done, then those can be done as well. So that concludes our explanation of how you tailor a jacket and how it's made and a bit of history. So I think we'll move on and answer a few questions. Monja, you can see them from there. So do you want to go through some of the questions?
So our first question is from Lorraine, who is asking if all of these rules also apply to women's tailoring.
So yes, they do largely, because a jacket is a jacket and it's made in the same way. So we need all similar measurements, or sometimes a few more for ladies. But yes, our ladies' wear is made in the same way. So you've got all the different options, the customization of buttons and linings and all of these things. So you can have lots of fun with that. I've forgotten now what I was going to say. But yes, absolutely. You can have just all the same options as the men, Lorraine. Don't worry, you're not going to miss out.
And we also have Ray, who is asking about the cost of our jackets. So because we've got so many different styles, different tartans or tweeds as well, the price can vary. So I think Emily will send you a link to a few different styles so that you can browse and see the options there and the different prices. So we have also been asked, and this has happened in the shop a few times as well, if somebody could send us a jacket to copy, if it's maybe their favourite or if they just know it fits really well.
So yeah, you can definitely do that, and you can take the measurements of it yourself, and if you give us a call or come on a virtual appointment, then we can show you how to do that, because it's really quite easy to do. Or if you prefer, send us your jacket, that's not a problem. Some of the measurements, actually, when you're doing them, for example, jacket length, if you've got a jacket you really love, then things like jacket length are actually much easier measured on an actual jacket. So just take from your collar to the hem, and you can get that length from there. But yeah, what we must have though always is a chest and a waist measurement on the body. That's really important for us to make a well-fitting jacket. But apart from that, yeah, we can usually take the measurements from a jacket for you.
Ray is saying that he's actually a McLean, so he's loving our dinner suit there.
Perfect. A good choice, Ray.
It's a lovely tartan, and you've got a few different options as well, so it's a lovely one. So we also have another question about different ways to personalize your suit, just to make it extra special and let everyone know that it was really made for you. So how's best to do that?
So as we've gone through before, lots of different options with lining colours, buttons, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming, I think, if you go on the website and you go, oh, I don't really know where to begin. So it is good to chat to us, and we do love to chat and to go through these things with you. And again, if you do a virtual appointment, you can do that on there, and we can hold up samples and do our best that way. But there are lots of different options. I actually have a jacket here of my own, which we had lots of fun with. So like we've added a velvet collar. Don't know if you can see, it's quite hard to see. Velvet collar. We've done a really wacky lining. We've added a bit of piping, all these things. But also one of the really nice touches that I really like is then just on the inside pocket there, we can also sew a label with your name or your initials embroidered. So if anyone walks off with your jacket and takes it away, then they'll know exactly whose it is later on.
We've also been asked about the jacket lengths and what's on trend now. So this is something, it obviously changes really frequently, but I would say that quite often, especially in the younger generations, that a shorter jacket length is a lot more popular, and definitely a super slim fit as well. Although from some of the catwalk images you can see that Emily's popped on the screen there, that the double-breasted 70s sort of look is actually coming back, just maybe a bit shorter, and still slim fit, but quite often tailors or designers are adding a really wide lapel at the top. So as Anna said earlier, that just gives you broader shoulders and makes you look slimmer as well. So it's quite flattering all round. And another question we have is somebody is very interested in really skinny trousers and wondering if we can do this with it being wool.
Yeah, so it is wool, so it's not like a super stretch fabric that you find on a lot of high street clothing and jeans and things where you can have a really, really skinny leg. But what we do is we have the blocks that we use, then we can go for a super skinny block and we can make a hem width. We can go as narrow as 15 inches. The most important thing being that you can get your foot through the hem width there. But yes, we can certainly go pretty skinny for you. And we've made a lot of much narrower trousers in the last few years, so they're very popular. And lots for proms and school formals and things. So for the younger generation, they're enjoying their skinny trews.
I think that's all of our questions this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Hopefully we're now all experts in all things tailoring. I know I've learned a lot in this process, just with Monja's great knowledge. She did 12 weeks on her course at university studying purely jackets. So I've learned lots as we prepared for this one as well. So it's been really good. Thank you, Monja. If you've got any more questions, just comment here on the post or send us an email and we can answer those for you. Next week, we thought we would mix it up a bit and we'd talk all things Edinburgh. So we were going to talk about what we love about our city, about living here, and some fun facts, some history, and of course the answers to all your questions. Maybe you're planning a visit or maybe you're from here and you want to share things with us. So send us your questions and your ideas. What would you like us to talk about? And we'll see you next Wednesday evening.